Huddersfield Town or Nottingham Forest. Both teams have defied the odds this season. Both have finished in a higher position that most of us predictors have actually predicted them to finish in this season. One will be making a pretty swift return to the Premier League if they do go up. One will be making a return to the Premier League in over 23 years. So there's a lot at stake for both of these teams. Both are going to want to win in the most expensive match in the whole of the EFL. So what I'm going to do today, guys, is predict the Championship playoff final between Huddersfield Town and Nottingham Forest. I just can't contain my excitement anymore. I've got to get my predictions out there. I'm sadly not going to go to the game. I wish I could, but unfortunately I can't get any tickets, unfortunately. So it's a real shame, but it's one of those things that I'll have to watch in the comfort of my own home. If you guys like what you see, please make sure you do give the video a like. It just tremendously help the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button as well, and please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps too. And guys, make sure you leave your predictions on the playoff final in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's start predicting who I think will return to the Premier League. So this is the game that will define who goes to the Premier League and who have to stay in the Championship next year. Huddersfield or Nottingham Forest. There's 19 places in the Premier League with one space left. We've got one too many members in our 22-23 season. One of them has to go. And who will it be? Well, if you look at the head-to-head records between these teams, they've actually played against each other 3 times this season, and it's not often where you get more than 3 meetings. This will actually be the 4th meeting that they'll have this season, which of course does not happen often. As you can see, Forest have won twice. They won 2-0 away from home. Now, this was actually the game after Chris Hughton did manage to get the boot. And of course, they had Stephen Reid in charge at that time. Grabban getting the first goal, and Lee Nichols, as you can see here, making an own goal in the second one. In the second meeting, this was actually at the City Ground, and Huddersfield got their revenge. And this was Steve Cooper's first meeting with Huddersfield Town this season. Dwayne Holmes with the winner, and it was Toffolo with the assist. And look at that, Sorba Thomas and Zinchenko both hitting the woodwork. So could have been a couple more goals coming from this game. But if this is what we're going to be up against, then this will be a really exciting game. And also the other meeting between these two teams was in the FA Cup round of 16. So quite deep into the FA Cup. Tom Lee's taking the lead for Huddersfield, but then Sam Surridge and Ryan Yates managing to get a 2-goal comeback for Nottingham Forest. As you can see, both these teams, looking relatively strong-ish by the looks of things. I mean, yes, both have had their substitute goalkeepers, but with their starting 11s at least, it was a pretty strong starting 11 from both of these teams. Pippa hitting the woodwork there, so being quite unlucky there. So I think what we're going to get between these two teams is going to be a lot of rivalry for the fact they've only met 3 times this season. And I'm really going to be excited to see the actual result of these matches there. So if we're going to look at the head-to-head records between these two teams, as you can see, 4 out of the 5 meetings, we've had less than 2.5 goals. And it's expected to be a very, very cagey game. And Huddersfield, with their recent success in the playoff, will know how little goals they've actually scored. They've actually been one of the very few teams that have only scored 1 goal throughout their whole playoff campaign, and they've relied on penalties to get through both games against Sheffield Wednesday and Reading respectively. Less than 4.5 cards is interesting, 5 out of 6 occasions, but Huddersfield against Nottingham Forest have been the first to score 4 out of 5 times. Now, that is very interesting. If you're looking at them individually with their league form, Huddersfield have not lost in their last 9 games, and they've actually been the first to score in those 9 games. Also, Forest without a clean sheet, but first team to score 7 out of 8. So Nottingham Forest have been pretty good recently, at least, being able to score first. They did so in both of their playoff semi-final games against Sheffield United. And I'll talk about both of those games now. So Huddersfield got through, beating Luton by 1-0 in the second leg. Obviously 2-1 on aggregate. So it was actually Jordan Rhodes who managed to score the goal. I mean, he was one for sentimental signings, and of course, he pops up with Huddersfield's most important goal in that season, because Luton definitely weren't a team that were out of it. What we saw was actually two very similar games where Luton, I felt for me, were the better team in the first half, but then Huddersfield grew into the game, and that I think is going to be a very important strength that Huddersfield are going to have. I just think there's a confidence in Huddersfield at this moment, which I think a lot of people are underestimating. Now, it definitely was not as dramatic as the other playoff game. So obviously, Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United. So Sheffield United pulled off a 2-1 away win, and they got knocked out by Forest on penalties. Now, it was the perfect start when Brennan Johnson took the lead, with Sam Sarge getting the assist. And by that time, Nottingham Forest were 3-1 up, and they had a 2-goal lead. But then just like that, in the second half, Gibbs White and John Fleck with 2 goals. Very similar goals as well. Both tap-ins, really. And both great movement down the right-hand side there. And I got to say, it was a very tense game. You can see from the yellow cards, it was very, very tense. And then the penalties, Cook, Caffrey, Brennan Johnson scoring their 3. Burge and Ndiaye only scoring 2 for Sheffield United. But Brice Samba making 3 penalty saves. And the goalkeepers, I think, could be very, very crucial going into a playoff game. So that's enough covering of all the detail. Now, in the history of the playoffs, we're looking back 15 years. If you finish third place in the table, you've got a very high chance normally of getting promoted via the playoffs. 7 out of the 15 occasions, third place has been promoted via the playoffs in the Championship. And who's finished third place? Huddersfield Town. Now, fourth is actually the second least successful team to leave the playoffs, only getting up 3 out of the 15 occasions, which I think is very, very surprising. Really an interesting stat for you. Only one 6th place team has managed to get promoted via the playoffs, and that being Blackpool. And in that season was the last time when Huddersfield's opponents, Nottingham Forest, were last in the Championship playoffs. And they actually lost out to this Blackpool team. So Nottingham Forest definitely in this position this year. They're definitely in the furthest and the much closest chance, that they have going into the Premier League for the first time in 23 years. The amount of history that they got, they've won 2 equivalent Champions League trophies. League Championship is what they called it back in the day. And they won 2 of those under Brian Clough. So I got to say, it would be amazing as a neutral to see Nottingham Forest back in the Premier League, especially with them, Leeds, and all these teams, Aston Villa back up there with them as well. I think it's going to be a very interesting Premier League season. But Huddersfield, this season, and it's something I've noticed, everyone has put Huddersfield down, and they have relished being the underdog team. I predicted them to finish 21st. They finished 3rd place. A lot of us were predicting Huddersfield maybe to squeak past Luton, but still make it a bit tricky there. It actually was a little bit more comfortable. They definitely did a lot better in this playoff semi-finals game when they did under David Wagner, of course. I actually think this Huddersfield team right now is better than the team they got promoted under David Wagner right now. I think they've definitely got better quality of players, better system, and just overall better depth as well, and just stronger in every position as well. Nottingham Forest, of course, were very, very pushed. I think they were definitely very, very tested. Steve Cooper, of course, their manager, has experienced his last 2 playoffs in a row, losing out in the semi-finals to Brentford. Brentford managed to end Swansea again, managing to edge past them in the playoff final. So, is it 3rd time's the charm for Steve Cooper? I tell you what, it's going to be an absolute nightmare for me to predict this game. It's impossible, because I can definitely see a narrative on both of these teams winning. I think Brice Samba is definitely going to have a lot of confidence with his great penalty performance for Nottingham Forest. I think Nee Nichols in goal is going to be very crucial as well. The way I see the game going, I actually would not be surprised if Huddersfield have more of the ball. And I actually would not be surprised if Huddersfield scored first in this game. But the question is, are Huddersfield going to be able to hold a clean sheet? When they took the lead against Luton in the semi-final, they, did not respond very, very well. And actually, both first halves in their games, Huddersfield have not looked that great, I've got to say. Forest, on the other hand, have looked rather good in the first half in all of their games. But it was the second half where they start running out of steam. So I think what we will see is a classic example of a tale of 2 halves, I think. definitely, decisions could definitely be very crucial. VAR is going to be used into this final as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to be implemented, especially if it results in one yellow card decision going to a red card, or if it means a goal would be given, or a goal would be disallowed for offside, or fouls in the build-up, or penalties awarded when they weren't previously given. So I think that is also going to make things very, very interesting. It's impossible to predict the exact outcome of every single minute of the game. But in terms of the outcome, that's what I'm going to try and predict. And as a prediction right off now, I just have a very funny feeling this year Huddersfield will do it. And it's very unpopular. And I've got to say, most of the people I've already seen have predicted Nottingham Forest. And I think part of it is part of the neutral wanting to see Nottingham Forest back into the Premier League. And there's no doubt about it. I would much rather see Nottingham Forest back in the Premier League than Huddersfield. But if I'm sticking to my prediction, I just think Huddersfield, relish being the underdog. And I think this season has just been a fairy tale season for them. And I think it will have a happy ending. So as a prediction for this game, I'm going to go for a narrow 1-0 win to Huddersfield Town. I think it will be very cagey. We saw with the stats, we don't get many goals. And typically in playoff finals, we don't get many goals. Last year was a bit of an exception for the fact we had 2 first half goals. The one before that, it was 0-0 at full time and we had to wait until we got 3 goals in extra time when Fulham went up over Brentford. I'm thinking a 55th minute goal for Huddersfield, I think will end it. I'm going to go 1-0 Huddersfield, but guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. These are my predictions for the Championship playoff final, so it means Huddersfield will join the Premier League and they'll be the second Yorkshire team to go up to the Premier League with Leeds United next year. And it means Nottingham Forest going so close but falling just short, and it'll be 3 consecutive playoff defeats for Steve Cooper. Man, it's going to be hard for whichever team does not go up because they both deserve it. They really, really do. But guys, this is only my opinion. As I said, please make sure you predict what you think will happen in the comments down below. This is only my prediction, so it doesn't mean it's going to be completely true. I will be doing a watch along on this playoff final unless I get tickets last minute somehow. But it's looking like it's going to be a watch along. So guys, make sure you check out my channel on the Sunday because that is when the playoff final is going to take place. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. And please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that helps too. But that will wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.